Hello, welcome back to Hot Topics of
Welcome,
Human
welcome.
Design. I'm Janelle,
And I'm Rebecca.
and we're here for you to chat about human design in a way that you might not have heard before, or about topics that you might not have thought we were allowed to talk about, or not allowed, because I mean, there's no one like we don't get in trouble or anything, but pieces and parts of things that we don't think are expressed enough and would really help you on your experiment, because it might let you off the hook from certain things that you're like, oh, if I just did it like this, like they're telling me to do it, then I'd be doing it right, which isn't
Yeah.
a real thing.
There's no right. Get out of the box.
Yeah. And yeah, so that's what we're here to talk about, human design hot topics. And if you have a hot topic that you'd like us to talk about, comment or get it to us somehow, and I'm sure we'll talk about it because we like when people tell us what to do. No, we want to give you the information that you are searching for.
Yes. Well, I think we both thrive off of questions because that's part of the recognition invitation piece, right?
Tell me what to do. Yes, I agree. Yeah, we thrive off of questions. So ask us your questions. And if you just have a question about human design, if it's not like a topic, you can always ask us that too. And we'll get back to you in any way we feel like. So today we're going to talk about the third line profile. If you're not super familiar with human design, there's a big piece of it called your profile. And for me, this is one of the things that I think helps to differentiate mental projectors from each other is the profile. I think it's a big piece of it. Do you agree?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that especially between you and I, like I see your first line all the time and I'm like, oh yeah. And you will point out the what's the word I'm looking for? The strength of my third line, because we both have third lines, but mine's in the front. And then I got that six back there that's like third line, but on the roof. So we both can kind of, I can see it in you can see it in me, and other people, I can see their profile a lot of times in their behavior and their personality. So this is one of those things I think that when you learn it about yourself or another person, you're like, oh gosh, yeah, that's totally them. Like I totally see it. So it's a good place to start too in the beginning is profile.
It is, yeah. And if you have a 3-line, it can be kind of exhausting because it's like, oh, you're just meant to mess up, but it's fine because you're meant to, so it doesn't bother you.
You're meant to do this, so you should be happy with it.
Right?
You should be fine with it. Yeah.
Like, oh, you fell on your face again? Well, you're a 3-line, you're supposed to. Why are you upset? Like,
totally. There's 1 to 6 lines. You'll have 2 of them. It'll look like a fraction, the best way to describe it. And the first number is usually more pronounced in your behavior and your personality, and the second number is usually seen better by other people. Like they notice that part of you a little bit better. I totally think you notice the role model part of me better than I do, because I'm just like, what? But today we're talking about the third line. 3 6 3 5 6 3
1 3
1 3. Shit, that's you. 1 3. Sorry. I was like, I had a brain fart. I think that's all the threes. So there's a lot. It's a pretty common number for the profile. So
it is.
And just as Rebecca said, it's about messing up and doing things wrong and things going wildly out of hand. And that's how it's supposed to go. And that can be very like, what? It's called trial and error, because we're here to learn what works best and then share that with the other people and say, you're welcome. Now you don't have to go through all of that crap because I did it for you. Here you are.
That'll be $100.
Right? That'll be $1 billion of life experience, please.
Yes.
If only we could charge for our explosions and kablamos. So yeah, that's really what the third line is about. To me, what I learned about this, it did feel very things like, come on, like, so most of the time I'm gonna do shit wrong. Like from the very beginning, it's gonna be wrong. Like it makes it hard to want to start things.
Yes.
And put things out into the universe and share, because you're like, well, it's exactly like we were talking about before this podcast. I want to put out my video diary, but I'm like, so I don't know if the words are big enough, and is this too much animation? Do I need more? Does this look like a 12-year-old did it? Like what? But as a third line, all of that stuff is not, there's no reason to go there yet, because I need to put it out first. And then I need to go, oh, the next time I do it, I'm going to tweak this here and do this here. And actually, I like this better like this. And then I'm going to look at the second one and go, actually, I like it to do like this. And I'm going to do like this. And I'm going to continue to tweak it in probably forever.
Yeah.
No, I'll probably get to a basic thing that I like, but I have to learn as a third line that you have to put it out, even if it doesn't look the way that you want it to look. Like you should put it out first, because the messy part is the part that people should see.
Because we have to be in it to really understand it also. So that's the thing that's given me some grace, is to realize like, okay, I'm just gonna go in and I'm gonna get my hands dirty, and that's how I'm gonna learn about it. And this is also where the perfectionism can come in, the not self side of the three line, where like you want to be perfect because you don't want to mess up. But then that keeps you from doing anything. I actually did this as a kid. One of my dad's friends, I remember, my dad's a pilot, and we would always hang out at the airport, and I was in the hangar like playing Barbies, and one of my dad's friends just came in and he goes, so you want to know the secret of life? I'm like 5, right? So I'm like, yeah, that sounds great. And he said, learn from other people's mistakes. Which, okay, I like, as a 41-year-old woman, I can understand what he was saying. But as a 5-year-old, I heard, never make a mistake.
Don't be someone that others learn from.
Yes. So for like 20 years, I was like, I can't make a mistake.
Oh yeah, I was very similar for different reasons, but very similar. You didn't want people to see it. That's the other thing, is like the third line is, not only are you supposed to make mistakes, but people are supposed to see it. Or if they don't see it, you're supposed to tell them. It's like, why would I embarrass myself for no reason? Yeah. But I get it now. Like when you're telling them, you're really gaining insight into why you made that mistake, what was the reason for it, what it was there to show you, why it bothers you and embarrasses you so much to tell another person about it. What's the thing about that mistake that you don't want other people to see? Is there a vulnerability there that you don't want others to know about? Because that's the big juicy part of the third line, is showing off your vulnerability like it's a goddamn flag.
Yeah. I know it gets kind of exhausting sometimes.
Yeah, and just as you said, it's painful because we're not like reflectors, because a lot of times reflectors are talked about, their resiliency is talked about as well, but they have a protection, an energy protection, an aura protection that helps it not be as, I think, to me it sounds like it helps them to be a little more objective, and for things to be a little bit less personal and like real. Yeah,
that's what it sounds like. But I feel like, so in the 2 reflectors that I've talked to about this, because that's the only opportunity I've had, they feel very similar to us, because Ra would say like, oh well, the 3 line has a Teflon aura as well. Like the 3 line is very much meant to be able to fall down and get back up. But as we know, it's not that easy. It's like we literally only do it because there's just no other choice. It's
just because we can doesn't mean we want to.
Exactly. And the reflectors I speak to feel very similarly. I mean, they're feeling a lot of things. They're doing a lot of things. And especially one that I know in Aura, her conscious sun gate is 21. And she does get a little controlling on things. And her feelings get hurt real quick.
Yeah.
And so it's just interesting to watch. And I think just part of it is to say, like, okay, well, sure. They have this Teflon aura, and I can see some ways where she's a lot stronger than I would have been. And I can see how you and I are a lot stronger in things that other people couldn't really do. But that doesn't mean it's easy, and that doesn't mean that we're not vulnerable.
No. And it can, like you said, it can be talked about as, like you said, we're just gonna get up and dust ourselves off and keep on going with a smile and everything is fine. But no, this stuff leaves marks on us, and it can be hard to get up and do it again when we know that that's why we're here. Like,
yes.
When that's part of your purpose is to make mistakes and to fall on your face and to have everyone see it. It's so crazy, because that's like one of the things that I was most afraid of as a kid. Is to be publicly called out on any sort of mistake that I made. And so
that's
to
horrifying.
be told that that's like you're actually what you're here to do for yourself, actively put yourself out there in that way, it's like, what? And it's tiring, because you're like, I don't really want to do that. But then you realize that in doing that, you're really helping move yourself forward and helping to show yourself who you really are. And it really kind of helps me heal all my weird like conditioning shit, or like give me some clarity on it, at least when I share the stuff that's like really scary to talk about. I don't really feel like I've gotten there yet in those little environmentally sound videos I've started to make for my video diary, because I'm just kind of spouting off information. I'm like, oh, mental projectors and authorities. And so it feels like fine. But then I know when I get past that kind of stuff and start talking about my like real personal life and things that are actually happening, I'm going to be like, oh, God damn it, I don't want to do that. So we'll see.
It is hard. Well, another thing that helped me was reading something Raw wrote about it, and he talked about how the 3 line is actually really vital in moving us forward as a humanity. It's about mutating the Maya, and we're the ones brave enough to go off and do the thing that needs to be done and experiment with the thing so that we can move forward.
Yeah, exactly.
That changed my perspective on it a lot too.
I totally agree. And I know that it helps when we think about it that way. Is like, we're here for the group. I mean, as projectors, we're here for the other anyway. So
yeah, and you and I are both pure collective, so it's like we're just here. We're literally here for the whole world to watch us fall on our face and learn from our mistakes. But we at least weave a story out of it.
Yeah. Because how many third lines do we have together?
15.
So many. And if you don't know how to see that either, if you look at your chart and there's boxes on the side, there should be decimal point and then number 1 through 6 next to each of those numbers. Those are your lines, so you can count how many you have. I have 10. Rebeka has 5. We have 15. It is a lot.
It is a lot. So then that's another interesting thing where you might not have a 3 line in your profile, but you have a whole bunch of 3 lines and you add them up to your gates. So
yeah, you have at least, I don't think I have none of any of them. I think I have one fourth line, maybe. So you're exactly right.
We always get jealous.
Line. Do you have 1 4th line? So we have like 2 between us?
Oh no, I actually have 3 4th lines.
My goodness. Well then you would need to be out there social butterfly. Right.
But I only have 2 lines and they're both subconscious. So.
I think I only have like 1 2 as well. It's very small. But just as I love that you pointed this out. So yeah, even if you're not one of the profiles we mentioned, you have a 3rd line somewhere in your conscious or unconscious gates. Like it's there. I promise you. And it's kind of cool to look at that gate through the lens of that energy. Like my sun gate is 1, which is creative self-expression. And it's 1-3, obviously. So it's creative self-expression through getting in the middle of it and dancing around in the muck and going, look, this is what's happening while I'm in it. Like, I'm not going to talk about it before or after, just right now while it's happening. And yeah, now that I said that, it actually makes me feel better about this video and everything. It's like, you're supposed to be talking about it while you're in the middle of it. Like, not reporting after or before. Yeah, especially me. So it's cool to look at your gates, every single gate that you have, with that little taste and differentiation of the energy, because it might not make sense to you as an energy that you possess, but then you throw that little piece and you're like, oh, well, it makes sense because it's about relationships, because it's a 4, and you're like, oh, okay, this makes sense. Or, oh, this is about knowledge and about and security and feeling safe, and that's a 1. I was talking about the first line with somebody the other day, and I didn't realize how similar fear, motivation, and the 1 line are. And I was
because it's a 1 line.
So if you have so you can only have fear, motivation if you're a first line.
No, it's just it's a 1 color, I should say.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I know it's a little bit off topic, but I remember talking to her because she had fear, motivation at first line too. And I was like, I need to ask Rebeka if like you can only be fear to motivation with the first line profile, but no. Okay. And you're the person I asked because you're first line.
I know someone asked me recently, she's like, how do you have the capacity to like memorize all these gates? I'm like, I don't know. I've got like 12 1 lines and fear, motivation, and gate 47 in my sun. It just don't have any other option. So don't feel bad if you don't memorize them. She's like a 2-4 Manny Gen, and she's just like so beautiful and flowy. And she's like, I don't understand how you memorize. Like, I don't understand how you make everything look beautiful. So
I don't really have them memorized. I know most general bits and pieces about most of them. And if I can look at where they are in the chart, this will help you people too. If you're like, how do you get the energies of these? If you can remember the energetic themes of each center, that gate has an energetic theme that leans that way. So that helps. Like if it's a throat gate, it's about manifesting things either with your voice or with action. Like that's just what it's about, but each of them is more specific than that. So that's an easier way for me, is if I look at the chart, I'm like, oh, we're talking about a gate in the root. Oh, it's going to have to do with pressure and doing.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you ever want to know how to quickly decipher the energy of that gate without knowing what the gate is, that was the easiest place for me to start, because that was hard for me too, as I don't have the capacity of first line. I'd have to see how many first lines I have. I probably only have 1, but I just I get super overwhelmed, and I'm like, oh, you give me the cliff note to this after you've figured it all out first. And then I'm off. But yeah, so back to third line. Sometimes we digress. I also wanted to point out that sometimes we can over-dramatize the third line process within ourselves, and we can make it seem like the mistakes or the things that didn't turn out the way we wanted to are a lot bigger of a deal than they actually are.
I do that all the time. Yeah.
And a lot of times people will commend you or comment on the messiest pieces of your shit and go, wow, when you started crying in the middle of that video, when you said that thing that was really vulnerable, like that was so awesome. And you're like, that part was the worst. I hated that part. I almost cut that part. Like, but that's what people want. And it doesn't feel to them as it does to you, like you're a slimy subhuman creature undeserving of love. It feels to them like you're opening up as a beautiful, graceful human being / butterfly. And you're showing them what real humanity looks like, which is wonderful. So it's just some advice that you might not need to be as afraid as you are of the mistakes that you're making, are about to make in the future, or have made in the past. They're usually not as big of a deal as we make them out in our heads, and they're not as personal as we put them inside of our little locked cabinets of feelings and don't want to let anybody see. Like,
I'm glad you said that, because that is a hard one. Like, as you're saying it, I'm feeling it deep in my core. Like, oh yeah,
good.
there's some things I've like shut myself off from, because I'm like, I'm tired of messing up over here. So I'm just
and you're
not
like,
gonna
God,
do it
and when I
anymore.
mess up again this next time, what is it gonna look like? This is gonna be worse. Maybe I'm gonna spend money and that's gonna be a terrible idea. Like, that's what I think anyways. What if I accidentally spend money on this thing? That's not worth it. Like, that's my worst case scenario. You can see where my priorities lie. But anyway, yeah, it's like, what if you mess up worse and it hurts even more, and it's like, well, you wasted even more time and everybody sees it. And like, to me, I build it up in my head before it even happens, before I've done the third line, first step of getting in it. I'm standing on the edge of the pool playing all the scenarios of what it could look like. And all the time, it's usually dragons breathing fire, or like me on the edge of a building. Just drama, just too
right. And it's like, literally, Sean's like, Janelle, I just need to know what kind of laundry detergent to get this week.
It's like a little thing. I'm so glad that you made it, Sean, be the one who's like standing on the earth going, hey, you up there freaking out. What are we going to do for dinner? Like,
right.
Because that's totally what it is. His 2-4 is very calm, cool, collect. And my 3-6 is like, what? And even if what you read about the types, the profile types doesn't specifically say that, it totally makes sense that my energy would be a little bit more high strung as a 3-6 than his energy as a 2-4. When you look at the individual, this is what the cool part of to me is about profile is you can see it in so many different ways in a person. And it's not even the ways that you read traditionally. Oh, 3s are trial and error, blah, blah, blah. Well, 3s are also high strung as fuck, because we're like, well, I'm going to try this thing. I got to get in at first, but which angle am I diving? Like, where am I coming in at? How do I do this? I have to make it perfect, but then I want people to see me fuck up. Like, and 2s are just like, I'm gonna play my violin in the window and everybody's gonna watch and come and be like, you're so great. And I'm like, cool, I need alone time. Like, it totally makes sense to me when you think about it.
Absolutely. Yes.
The third line profile, navigating the broken staircase up the stairs. The second line, just like, oh, the fourth line, oh, I'm at the party. I'm on the second floor party with everybody. Cool, yeah. Like, great. I'm on the roof with no one. Thanks a lot. Well, not you. You're not on the roof, but
no, I'm the first one. I'm the one like
you're in the investigating everything. Magnifying glass, like, oh,
I'm like investigating, and then I bump into stuff, and I'm like, hey guys, there's a wall here. Just wanted you to know.
Did you see? I'm going to investigate where it's coming from, how tall it is, and what it's made of. I will get back to you.
I'll let you know more.
We'll probably talk about the other profiles in this sort of way, but this is the only one we have together.
Yes.
And it really has hyped us up on some things.
And it's just so funny watching it come out. Like, sometimes when you're talking, I'm like, that's just all 3 line right there. Like, stuff. And then even our environment thing, like, we got in it, we experimented, and we're like, oh wait, there's more things we need to learn. So let's back up. And then that brings me to the bonds made and broken as well. Like, have you, what has been your experience with that?
I don't even have notes for this. I'm so glad you said about this part. What is my experience? You have to tell me yours after I tell you mine. But
yeah, totally. I mean, I can go first if you want.
Go first.
Okay. Because I've got plenty of stories.
Right?
First of all, I've been married and divorced twice. So
twice?
There's that. No, twice. My poor second husband, I like rarely talk about him because it was just so
this is the first I'm hearing of this. You had a second, well, obviously it would be a first because you got married when you were like 18. So
Yeah. So I had my kid's dad. He was a 2-4 generator, right? We're together for 15 years. We were married for 10. Devastated when that ended.
Yeah.
And then there's been a whole series of weird dating experiences, which would be a very 3-line thing because I had to learn a whole bunch. And then with my second husband, that one I can't quite explain. And it's like, I am super grateful to him because being in a marriage relationship for a second time just healed certain things from my first marriage that I couldn't have done otherwise, right? Like being inside of a second marriage and remembering things and healing things in certain ways, it made me see certain aspects of my first marriage in a different way. And so I got so much healing out of that relationship. I'm not sure he did, but that's not my fault. So it just is what it is. I mean, the marriage itself,
very bonds made and broken of you to say.
Very bonds made and broken. I was like, I learned what I need to learn. Thanks, guy. Have peace out. And but I was never like that with my first husband. Like I was very attached. That's a whole other thing. I think that's a split thing.
Your second husband?
Oh, less than a year.
Okay.
I mean, on paper, it was like
I don't know any of this.
Yeah. On paper, it was longer.
I know none of this.
So this is part of why I'm terrified of dating
Rebeka
now.
Getting vulnerable and sharing things that she doesn't normally share.
Well,
I love it. Well, I get it. You'd be terrified. You'd be scared to date because you've done this.
Like, I don't want to be divorced again. I really don't. You know,
you don't ever have to get married again.
I don't, but then I'm scared of just even having a relationship because it's like, okay, well, what if these bonds made and broken? And there's this tendency of I'll start to be with someone and I'll like them. And then all of a sudden it's like, no, this, and this is not working and I'm done. And that doesn't seem fair to the other person.
Yeah.
It's like yesterday I thought I was fine. Today I'm like, none of this.
Bye.
Yeah.
No, I mean, yeah, before Sean, I had one serious relationship. I lived with a guy for like a year, but I was not a relationship person. And this is one of those things where you learn about your design and you're like, oh, that totally makes sense about like your whole life. Like I had boyfriends in school and I was obsessed with boys. I was like, oh my God. I
had a boyfriend so every year. Yes.
I did not. I loved boys, but I was terrified and shy and no guys really paid attention to me ever.
Somehow boys asked me out all the time. Like seriously, kindergarten through getting married to my first husband, like every single year I had a boyfriend.
I feel like you were probably less shy than I was, like painfully shy. Like run away from people.
I wasn't outgoing.
I know.
I don't really understand it. It just happened.
So cute. No, I had a boyfriend my sophomore year that I dumped before I went with a bunch of girls to like, I was like the only sophomore at junior prom because these girls brought me with, it was weird. I don't know how it worked out. Boy, I went, and then I had a boyfriend when I was a senior that was in college, and I was like, I felt so cool because he was older, and we were together for like a year, but then I was really real single. I mean, but I mingled. I just was really I mingled. I just was very much like, relationships never appealed to me. They sounded difficult. Like romantic relationships sounded hard. They sounded like you had to give up parts of yourself for this other person. They sounded like you had to pretend like you were somebody you were not for this other person.
Mm-hmm.
They sounded like at any moment that person could just take your heart and go, bye, and leave you. And all of that just was like, not interested. So I was very single, and I liked a lot of romantic relationships with boys, but I didn't want
the whole thing.
And at first I felt very in like college and stuff, I felt that like shamed me because I was like, I'm a girl. Should have a relationship. Like all the stuff I'm doing is like, this is what guys do.
Like boy things.
Guys sleep
But
around
this
and
is
do all this stuff, and girls can't do this.
This is your double 3-line phase though, right? Like,
oh yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yep. So, and if you don't know what that is, people, if you have a 6-line in your profile, the first stage of your life, like 1 to 30-ish, you're a 3rd line essentially. So surprise. But yeah, it just seemed easier. Anyone I knew was in a relationship, anytime I heard about it, I was like, this seems so hard. But then like the being able to have people to sleep in the same bed with you kind of sounded nice, I guess. I like to sleep in my own bed. I don't know. So I guess I would say that for the majority of my life, I thought relationships were a waste of time and like stupid. And I got to this point where I was like, I'm probably going to be single like my whole life.
That's how I feel right now. I'm like,
but I was like, when I did this, I was like 24.
See,
I was like, I'm going to be single my whole life.
Yeah.
You were married.
And 24 is pregnant with my 2nd kid.
Yeah. So, and I was like, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna be single my whole life. But then I had a boyfriend, but it was very much just as you said. If I ever had a relationship with a guy, I was never friends with him after. Bonds made and broken. That's what bonds made and broken means, people, is that 3rd lines have a very matter-of-fact way of looking at a situation and going, okay, I've learned XYZ, but I think I need to move on from this situation. Blammo. And then we just can cut it off, and it can feel cold and like uncaring to people who are involved, but that's not, we just have the ability to do that. So like,
I know it's weird, but like what I really want is a long-term relationship where I realize now that like at some point the bond will have to be broken, where I'm realize, okay, what's been going on is not working anymore, and here's why. But then you can renegotiate into a deeper bond.
You're correct.
Yeah.
Bonds can be altered. They can be, like you said, broken and changed and then put back together because they need to look differently for the relationship to evolve.
Yes. And that is one thing that really healed me thinking about my first divorce. I mean, that's the one that just truly killed me. Because him as a 2-4 generator, he's like, I don't know, he would always be like, I feel like we should just be friends. And I would be personally offended by that. Like, why? Like, what in the world?
Why the hell would I waste time on you? I don't like you. Obviously, I broke the bond. Or he broke the bond. Like, yeah.
Well, no, like he's saying this as when we're married. Like, we're married. And he's like, I feel more like we're friends. And I'm like, but I feel like it should be more, and I'm trying to negotiate something more. It was just really weird. But so me realizing like some of the ways that I presented in the relationship and how like conversations I would have that he would be upset by, where I'm like, well, this area isn't working, let's fix it, and he'd be upset about it. And I realized, oh, that's just me navigating. Like, I literally didn't know anywhere. I thought that's what you did. That's how you grew in intimacy, is saying like, this is not working, so let's move over here.
You're not wrong in that and thinking that.
Yeah, but he was like not having it.
Because it probably felt like a personal attack against him.
Yeah. That's not he took it very personally.
Men take things very personally. You don't think that they do. And then you're in a relationship with them and you're like, oh, like it's hard to say, hey, can we talk about this thing because this hurt my feelings, or this. He and I still have issues with that, where it's like, this really isn't about you as a person. I understand that you didn't like mean anything by the way that you said it, but like, we need to talk about this thing or whatever. But
yeah, and of course, you know, we're like in our 20s, so we don't know how to communicate.
Yeah, at the time, not now, people.
Yeah,
we're so mature. It's like
we're so mature.
But I love that you brought up the bonds made and broken, because for me, I could really see that for myself when it comes to friendships.
Oh yeah,
it's really easy for me to like gauge how much energy I have for a particular friendship, and to like be really like good at not giving anymore. Like I say, I like to say no a lot. So I don't know. I don't think I'm a bad friend, but I don't know how. I think with you and I, it's easy because we're not in the same place. So I'm like, how?
Yes.
If I had to like give physical energy, like go places and do things, I mean, I think it would be fun. So I think we'd still be friends. But for a lot of people, it's hard for me to do that. I'm like, I don't want to leave my house or drive across town to talk to you. Like,
I don't either. I'm like, I'll drive 5 minutes.
Yeah,
maybe
right.
10.
And I sometimes I feel like a jerk, but then I'm like, I think this is just part of, like you said, the bonds made and broken. Is not only are we able to break the bond and kind of move on without, well, for me, it's fantastic because then I don't have to look at the past. I'm like, oh, I'm going because I don't like to look back. But the bond part, I feel like we get really good once we've done it for a while at negotiating the energetic bond. Like, how much energy do I have for this thing? Pull it back a little bit more. Okay, there. Like, we kind of figured out how much to give to the bond so that when we break it, for us, it doesn't feel, I think, as serious as it might for other people. So that's probably why a lot of times we can come away just like, oh, we were friends for this amount of time, or we were coworkers. Like, I never talked to any of my old coworkers, like, ever. I'll work for a place forever and I'll never talk to them again. I don't talk to my current coworkers unless I'm at work. I never do, ever.
I actually just did this Zoom meeting with some of my former coworkers from Little Rock. And like, we used to have lunch together every day. It was like a whole thing. And so then we were together. I hadn't talked to some of them in a few years.
Yeah.
And it was a little weird.
Right.
I was like, I'm not this person anymore that fits in with this group. I don't really have anything to say. It was good to see them, but
that has a lot to do with your point of the third line morphs things and pushes things forward, mutates, that's the word you use, and pushes things forward. So we, as ourselves, are mutative.
Yes.
So when we mutate out of that part of our life, and then we go back, we try to go back, it's like, because that same shit has happened to me before. I'll see people I haven't seen in years, and sometimes it's kind of okay, but then you're like, we're talking about stuff that I don't even care about anymore, and I'm pretending like I care about this thing.
Yeah, it's like, I do not have the energy to pretend to care anymore.
Human design? Do you know human? No. Okay, cool. Let's talk about your kid, I guess.
Right. Like,
everybody always has a kid. When I see you again, I'm like, oh, of course you got. Well, got it. So,
you're like, I have a cute dog.
This is another. I'm almost excited to do this one. I'm gonna do a video diary on my feelings towards children. They're not good, people. Just, you might want to skip that one if you are easily offended by people who don't like kids. Because I've realized that not only do I not want my own kids, I don't want to be a cool aunt. I don't want to be a cool godmother or best friend. I don't care about your child anyway. Sorry.
I'm glad that you know that. You know what? I'll make a mom video to balance out the universe.
And this is the thing, as you can see, I don't have anything against people that have children. Like, whatever. Rebeka has kids, love you. Your boys sound like a dream. If I had children, I'd want them to be like yours.
They are.
But I don't. If you were like, hey, Janelle, do you want to be friends? Like, that's gonna be super weird. But if you're like, hey, do you want to be friends with my kids? I would be like, in what capacity? Like, what do I got to do?
Right. Or like, if we lived close together and I was constantly bringing my kids over, that would probably be a no-go.
Like baking and they liked my stuff, then it might be fine. Your kids are older though. Like, your kids are almost not kids. So
no, they're not kids anymore at all. Actually, one of them is a legal adult.
See, and when that's the other thing is when you're a legal adult, you're just fine by my standards. But if you're a child, you automatically fall 1,000 points in my book. Sorry.
Well, I mean, I can't say that I blame you for that. Like, I honestly didn't want kids. It just kind of happened to me, and I'm grateful for that, because then I can't stand it when women are like, oh, my kids are my everything. I'm like, that's too much pressure to put on a kid. Like, just stop. And
yeah, you're right.
Like, you need to be a human, because my mom will say stuff like that. And I'm like,
I agree.
Yeah. And so I'm kind of glad because I never did that to my kid. Like I remember being pregnant, 21 years old, and just holding my belly one day and saying, like, I promise you, like, you get to be who you are. I don't care who
Aw.
you are. If you come out gay, if you tell me that you're trans, like anything, like you get to be you. I just had this like weird moment where I was like crying and it's probably pregnant hormones. I'm like, I love you for who you are.
Pregnant belly. Rebecca's gonna come out with something human design and parent related eventually, because you're really pretty darn good at this stuff. And I know you've been parenting for way more than you've known about human design, but
Yeah, but then
you
it's
have a
weird
lot of
looking
interesting
back.
takes on it.
Yeah, because I realized like their design was very prevalent from the beginning, and I basically parented them towards their
Maybe you should
design
do
from the
videos
beginning.
for the YouTube channel.
Yeah, that would be
Like
interesting. I should
little
do that.
ones, like little shorties, so it's not pressure or anything. Okay,
Yeah.
sorry, we're like all over the place, but this is the deal. We just wanted to share with all of you that you have a little third line in you. All of you do. So there
Don't be
might
scared
be,
of it.
yeah, there might be points in your life where you have to go before you're ready. Like, I mean, you've heard that. Everybody says that. Go before you're ready. Stick your foot in before you're ready. But the reason you need to do it is because you just can't see it from where you are. So just put one foot in and you'll be surprised. This is another thing I wanted to share is I am almost always surprised by the amount of clarity I get from just like doing one little thing to move forward. And then it's like, oh, now I see that thing. Oh, and this. And then I ran this by Rebeka and it's a go. And now with this. And then you're moving forward. And before you even know it, like that little tiny step is giant leaps. And you're like, oh, and you're past that thing now and you're on to the next thing. You don't even know how you got
Yes.
there.
Yes, it's so interesting. It's like I was just updating my stats on my things that I did. I started paying attention once a month. I would write down like how many followers I had or how many, like just it's different things.
First line.
Right. Well, it was partly because I was just feeling so depressed, thinking I wasn't making any kind of impact, and something told me to start doing this. And so then once I did, I started seeing that I was making an impact and people were paying attention to what I said. And so I thought, okay, like I needed to see that. So that's part of the action creates
You just
clarity as
needed
well
proof.
with that 3 line. Yeah.
Sometimes our ajnas need proof, especially if you're mental projector and your ajna, that's the majority of your definition.
Yeah.
Sometimes we can really convolute things with, like you said, I don't think this is working. I don't think this is that. And you need to like see stats and proof and stuff that people are actually looking at, or you need people to tell you things. And then you're like, oh, it's the projector recognition. It's the ajna needing like proof, like this is an experiment and I need to see the proof at the end that this is going to work. That's where I think sometimes the ajna can kind of muddle the third line a little bit. Is it's like, wait, where's your proof before you take the step, before you get in it? Where's the proof that this is going to work? Like that's where I go almost every single time, is how do I know that this is going to do what I want it to do? You don't, dork. You just go. Like, obviously you don't get to know that. Like, who am I to think that I get to know that? Who am I to think that I get to know the future? Am I like some sort of magical creature? I'm
and
human.
Sometimes things turn out way better than you thought they were going to turn out. So stop limiting yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Like before we got on this podcast, I was telling Rebeka how irresponsible I thought it was to go out and get coffee a few days a week with my husband and sit outside in the sunshine and have our conversations, because it costs money and I can make coffee at home. But then I turned that like, oh, this costs money. Like you shouldn't be doing this. This is irresponsible. I turned it and then I put it as something in my head as like something I would want as like my dream life, like to be able to go out and have coffee every day and not worry about it. So I changed it and turned it into something that I could maybe have as like a real thing. Just like you said, I was limiting myself and going, oh, this is irresponsible and you shouldn't be doing this. And I elevated it and said, actually, this is part of my dream life. So maybe I should just keep doing it. So,
yeah.
Boom! We're living beyond our third line guesstimations of how things are going to go. Okay. So I feel like we covered a lot of good third liney stuff, right?
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you wanted to throw in?
I don't think so. I'm feeling pretty complete.
Yes. Work on not caring about the outcome as best you can, because the outcome is not important to you. And that's another third line thing, is you can get stuck in, you want to know what's past the first step and not just you want to know what's at the very end. And you, like I said, who are you to get to know those things? You don't get to. Sorry, none of us do. So that helps me to think of it that way, is like, I'm asking something of myself that's superhuman. I'm asking something of myself that no one else on this planet has the ability or capability to do, and it's to predict the future. So why would I ask that of myself? So don't ask that of yourself. Be in the moment, stick your foot in, and see what happens and how much clarity you get if you just put yourself in it. Rebeka and I are putting ourselves in it right now, in this podcast, in our business together. We're working specifically on getting in it before we go, well, I'm doing it the opposite way. I'm going, wait, is it going to look like this? Is it going to look like this? Is it going to look like this? And then Rebeka goes, hey, let's put ourselves in it. And I was like, that's the right answer. Put ourselves in it. Don't worry about all these, how we're going to teach people to do things. Put ourselves in it first. So put yourselves in it, people. I think that's all I have to say.
Enjoy the ride.
Right? Exactly. So thanks for listening to us. Comment, like, subscribe, whatever things you want to do.
Thanks, y'all.
Bye.